Yeah, I see what you're saying about it. But from how I've perceived it, it doesn't really have a personality. And it doesn't really intend to have a personality. It's sort of like
Right.
this blob of ideas. Not really like, I guess it can be opinionated in a sense, but it's intentionally unopinionated so that other opinions are more welcome.
Like, what is that threshold that gets contributors to contribute?
It's very widespread, you know. There's a bunch of things that we're trying to accomplish right now. And because of that, there's sort of like it's really difficult to identify exactly what slanted is. Like if the lectures had more structure, or you know, if there's like a discussion that was more structured, that actually, you know, push for sort of this goal that you have of pushing ideas forward and testing ideas and having this dialogue, you know, having something set in place for that to happen, I think would give slanted um, more weight, more, you know, people would take that more seriously.
Like people just do weird things, and like that's to me what this is about. Like this group is about it's about bringing the passions together, bringing the people together and not really naming exactly what it is that our audience is. And I think in a sense that streamlines the group to become just focused on people that make things, people that are interested in making things.
I think I think everyone's opinion so far is legitimate, but I think we need sort of like a mission or some sort of a goal, because I think we can create a bunch of things, but within that we can have like a specific goal. We need to look at precedents for what a commune is, or like whatever we think this is, or if commune is even the word that we want to use for this. Just having some sort of like like a goal or like a vision for like what this is might really help us shape it, because otherwise we're just like firing in like different directions and like not going from point A to point B necessarily, but like just like jumping from point A to like point B and then back to point C, like fucking back to point A, like I don't know.
The group kind of has value um, outside of school, kind of almost emulating a school experience where everybody's kind of working on something, but it's not the exact same thing.
But I just think that those things can happen pretty organically. It's just a matter of action. Like I think with us kind of focusing on maybe the vocabulary that we're using, I think might be a little bit counterintuitive in the sense that it's like if we just start doing things, it'll become what it needs to become, and it'll become out of action. I think if we overanalyze it before we start, we're gonna kind of shoot ourselves in the foot. Not too bad, but I think it'll slow down our progress, and it might you know hamper things that could be done.
But I guess what I'm trying to do is for us to understand why we're doing this so that we can kind of, you know, we can see the vision together as a group so that we kind of push something forward. Like I'm trying to get more like non-architecture people because right now our whole lineup is architecture people, and whether they're like on one side of the coin or the other, they're still architects at the end of the day. And yeah, there's some pretty cool lectures coming up, and I think I think the lecture series in like 12 weeks, once we have all these lectures going through, like we're going to have a lot more to work with and we'll have a better sense. And that's where I kind of agree with the idea of just letting it mold itself. I kind of just said the galleries are important because they're revealing the kind of inner core of the group, and I want that. I really wish more people like sent their work, because imagine we had 500 members with their work on the website. Like that would be incredible.
What if, as a, just throwing ideas out there, what if a goal as a group is to be, to have our work posted in an art gallery somewhere?
Idea I have for like garnering engagement with our group is maybe some like short-term projects. like I know people are always busy with their sort of stuff, and that's why the main project currently has a pretty long time period. Um, but if maybe there was like a week to a month long project where it's just like a sketch activity or something along those lines, where it's just very broad, um, very broad prompt, and it's just like throw something together.
Saying something to add to the discourse. So I could see Slanted being maybe a place where we are able to speak up and sort of learn from each other. You know, second year, third year, first year, transfer student, doesn't matter. I think architecture is fun because you get to learn from different like point of views, and I think that's what sort of like makes architecture. It's not being like a singular thing, but communal thing.
I came in here thinking that, maybe having like a vision or like some sort of like rigid uh, curriculum or whatever for this thing could be nice. But Seth, what you brought up with like this, multiple identity is like a really like idea, I think, because, it ensures that, this commune thing that we have is constantly evolving without any biases. I think this also opens us up to have this be like, when someone have this be, whatever we want in that moment. Maybe 1 month we are just doing like art shows and stuff, and then another month we're doing something else. But then everyone can join into the conversation, and I think this sets us up for like a really interesting commune situation where people can learn. And I would also use like the analogy of like New York City. It's like such a massive urban situation that no one really like. New York City doesn't have like one identity. Like how you see New York City is like different from how I see New York City. So like what I'm thinking is like, each of us could kind of be like our own freaking block or whatever. Cheesy, but kind of makes sense.
Me being, I just started architecture college at SciArc. I'm actually walking to the train station from there right now. But kind of there was a disconnect almost between what I was doing at SciArc and what was going on with Slanted. And I'm learning right now how I'm going to be able to bridge those two. But I think it's again kind of a group effort where the more integrated the idea of this community is with the overall kind of practice or design community as a whole, the more interesting, the more kind of natural connections we make, etc. I also, Seth, what you were talking about with like kind of building communities through lectures and how to break down a very large community, I think was pretty interesting. Lecture can actually be a really great tool from what I'm seeing to kind of not necessarily splinter the community. I think that's not a great word for it. I think a better word would be more like to kind of make the community into parts of a dynamic whole. As Whitings was talking about kind of imagining the city as a dynamic whole, and I think we could imagine Slanted as a similar construct of kind of a community of parts. What we were talking about with like different kinds of designers, artists, just people of creative pursuits or practical pursuits from wherever, bonding over kind of the coagulation of unique topics, and integrating that with the kind of structure of lectures, presentations, etc. Where I don't necessarily think the commonality comes from the subject itself. It's more about all the subjects.
I think as a whole, we just need to start doing things like on whatever scale. Like if you want to start seeing something specific that we talked about today, initiate it, like don't just say like, oh, this is my idea, Seth, and then Seth set it up. Like I think that once we start taking our own autonomy within the group, it can become something self-sustaining. But until we start acting, because I think our actions will invest us further, and then other people will act and then they'll become more invested. I think it's just like a compounding thing where it's like you just got to take the first step. And I don't know. I mainly like, I guess I'm talking to myself mostly because it's like, yeah, I love seeing other people's work and seeing what they're doing, but it's like I need to contribute if it's going to be, valuable. We should be aware of what we can get from other people's work. You know, I don't know. I think it's just we should be excited to learn, and nobody can come in. And again, like we emphasize like the lack of hierarchy. You know, like it's a commune, and I think part of that is going to be you have to put aside your pride. Like you can't come in thinking like, oh, I already know more than this people. Like I'm just this is what the group can get out of me. But it's like no, like what can you learn from these other people? What can you learn from the people still in school? What can you learn from people who've been out of school for like 10 years, you know, like people who are completely different from you? I did a lecture at VT, and part of it was like, you need to put yourself out there more. And I think that this group is a great opportunity to do that with a wide variety of people, much wider than it would be in a school.
But what about all the other people across the world that don't know anything about architecture and really want to? That to me is what this could be. You know, like I think there's something interesting about a reach and potential for reach, and you know, I think there's something, you know, there's something there, and I don't know what it is yet.